Medic. A name he holds despite lacking the license to do so, an avoider of fights and yet has arguably the biggest impact on how they play out. Medic's strength is his ability to heal, buff teammates beyond their max health, and having access to the strongest move in the entire game. However, he has weak self-defense and needs to manage avoiding fights while maximizing his effect on the battlefield. That balancing act is the main crux of playing Medic. The more effect you have, the more momentum you give your team, but playing too aggressively or without thinking will get you killed. Medic is a game of risk management. While Medic can be stressful, even a novice Medic has a noticeable impact. And hey, the Medi-gun is aim assisted, so you don't have to worry about your aim. At least to start with. But on that note, let's talk about how your big life-giving beam works. Once locked onto a patient, the Medi-gun will begin healing them, and if they're already fully healed, they'll get buffed. This is a temporary extra layer of health that caps out at an extra 50% max health. It allows them to sponge more damage before taking damage to their main health, but it decays over time, taking 15 seconds from a full buff. You also naturally regenerate health on your own, unlike other classes. Plus, you self-heal even faster when beaming a teammate. As mentioned before, you only have to aim near your target for the beam to attach. Once attached, it only breaks if you break line of sight for about a second or you get too far away. You do not have to keep aiming at the target. In fact, you can do a full 360 without breaking the beam. As you heal players, your Ubercharge will build at a rate of 2.5% per second. However, if your target is at or above 142.5% max health, aka pretty much fully buffed, the Uber build rate will be cut in half. It is also cut in half for every medic healing the same target. Once the Uber meter is full, right-click to activate the almighty Ubercharge. This is the medic's main big flashy power move, making both the medic and whoever they are healing. The only downside is that you can't capture objectives while Ubered because game design, and you can still be killed if you fall into a death pit, as well as the fact you are still susceptible to knockback.
Yes, I wonder what this class can do.
I'll elaborate more on how to effectively use Uber later, but I don't think I need to explain why complete immunity to damage is strong. But what if I told you there was another hidden mechanic that the game doesn't tell you about, where the longer a player has gone without taking damage, the faster the Medi-gun will heal them. Yeah, a lot of you probably never even realized this was a thing, but once you start paying attention, the effect is really obvious. Players that have taken damage within the last 10 seconds will be healed at a rate of 24 health per second. However, any longer than that and their healing rate will quickly build up over the course of 5 seconds, going up to 72 health per second if they haven't taken damage for at least 15 seconds, which is substantially more. This hidden mechanic is often referred to as crit heals, and taking advantage of it can massively speed up how quickly you get teammates healed up. With all that in mind, how should you go about healing? Now with the mechanics I explained up to this point, you should have hopefully figured out that you shouldn't just heal one person. Try and get everyone around you healed up and buffed within reason. Now, following a particular player around is known as being a pocket medic. This in of itself isn't a bad thing. In fact, it can be smart to position around a player that you think will do particularly well with your heals and / or keep you alive. You can even bring friends along with you to a game.
Well, actually, I don't have any friends.
Anyway, yeah, pocketing isn't a bad thing as long as you're healing everyone else nearby. If your pocket is fully buffed or they just don't need it right away, beam everyone else you can. It's smart to keep crit heals in mind as well, since those who have crit heals can be worth beaming real quick to get more healing done much quicker. You can try and guess if people have crit heals, but because the effect is so drastic, you can easily check by just flash healing for a split second and spot the stupidly high healing rates. And even if they're full health, fresh out of spawn, it's still smart to use crit heals to get them buffed. While buffs may seem like the cherry on top, they are really strong and can alone win fights. Let's do some math. Let's take the Demo Man's grenade launcher, which does 100 damage upon direct hit. Soldier has 200 max health, so it takes 2 hits to kill him from full health. But if they're buffed, even by a single point, it now takes 3 hits to kill that soldier. And sure, they can achieve the same effect by equipping the battalion's backup for 20 extra max health. But wait! If they have it equipped and get buffed, they now take 4 hits, which is even more than a heavy. But wait! If you overheal a heavy, they take 5 hits! That's only one example of the impact buffs can have. There's others like allowing light classes to survive quickscope headshots, letting soldiers use rocket jumps to get to the fight quicker without missing a bunch of health, making the enemy sniper have to fully charge a headshot to kill a heavy, blah blah blah. Either way, all you really need to know is that buffs are really strong, and arguably more impactful than healing. While people can mash E to try and get your attention, such as the scout with 124 health, you should turn on this setting right here that makes teammates automatically call when below a certain health threshold, as it will very consistently alert you to nearby players who need healing. You can also change the Medi-gun to be a toggle rather than needing to hold the fire button down. But don't just heal whoever presses E the most. It's a suggestion, not an order. Heal whoever you realistically can, and remember to prioritize whoever you think is going to do the most with it. You do not have to save everyone. And when your soldier loses a fight to a heavy, you have one secret weapon left. He's carrying a heavy weapon and has short legs. However, you're only carrying a scientific abomination, plus your legs are much longer in proportion to the rest of your body. So watch very closely as I show you the exact way to deal with this situation. As the medic, you are quite literally the most important player on your team. Unlike the other classes that can benefit from making plays that get them killed, you need to do your absolute best to stay alive for as long as possible. Not only can you not heal while dead, but you drop any Uber you may have built upon death. Plus, the knowledge that your death has a high impact puts a massive target on your back for the enemy team, so have fun as they go out of their way to kill you specifically. So as mentioned before, you want to get the most healing and Ubers done as possible, while dying as little as possible. Remember what I said about not needing to save literally everyone? That in part applies if they're too far out of the way, such as a sniper that's far back, but it applies even more so if going to heal that teammate puts you in danger. Medic, stop. You don't need to heal the spy. That's enemy lines. Medic, stop. It's not worth it. Medic, stop, 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 stop! Don't sacrifice yourself for teammates unless it is a literal game-winning play. You want the enemy to have to go through your teammates before being able to attack you. They are your meat shield, and if you think your only heal target is about to die, don't be afraid to leave them to buy yourself more time to get away. However, having human meat shields won't prevent all enemies from being able to attack you. In fact, the most common classes to kill you in this situation are all the ones that start with the letter S. Scout being the fast boy, Soldier being able to rocket jump over a group to reach you, Sniper being able to headshot you, and Spy being able to sneak behind and kill you instantly with a backstab. With Scout, try to pay attention to flanks, as that's the most common way they will reach you. If you suspect an imminent Scout attack, try and put a teammate between you and them, as Scouts will usually try to take advantage of whichever angle isn't covered. Sticking near a sentry gun can make you practically immune to Scout attacks for obvious reasons. Fun fact, when healing someone with a faster running speed than you will speed up to match their speed, meaning healing a friendly Scout can get you out of sticky situations, especially if the Scout runs the same direction as you. This has been Fun Fact. With Soldier, watch out for them trying to rocket jump above and try to position a teammate between you and the Soldier when this happens. However, this is dependent on the Soldier's willingness to jump and if there's even the right amount of space to do so. Be very mindful about this on maps with lots of open space. While sentries aren't as big of a counter to Soldier as they are for Scout, it does force the Soldier to deal with it first before attempting to bomb you. With Sniper, pay attention to what's in the distance. One quickscope headshot is enough to kill you, and while you can do a bunch of movement nonsense to make it hard to hit you, the most reliable way to not get headshot is to be in the Sniper's sightline for as little time as possible. Note that if your patient crosses a sightline before you, the beam may act as a signal for the Sniper that you're coming. Briefly detaching the beam and/or delaying your entrance can mind game the Sniper into missing. With Spy, pay attention to your surroundings and watch for teammates acting weirdly. Either the Scout is a spy or he's had too much prune juice. Anyway, you can't just watch flanks like you can with Scout or Soldier since Spy can turn invisible. But do you know what you can do?
Turn around.
Yeah, once you're locked onto a patient, you can freely turn around to check for spies without compromising your healing efficiency. You can shoot them to make them back off, put teammates between you, and sure, you can try to melee them, but be careful if it looks like they want you to chase them. Note that because of their disguise, they can trick you into healing or even Ubering them. Pay attention to the signs of a spy because slipping up may result in you getting stabbed by the person you're healing. But with all of these classes, and even more that may find themselves having flanked behind your team, the best thing you can do is pay attention to your surroundings. Simply being aware of possible attack vectors will help you react to them quicker and more efficiently. You should do your best to never be surprised and try to foresee attacks coming.
Yeah, but the issue is that I have bad teammates and they won't protect me.
Look, I'm going to be blunt here, but that is a skill issue. Yes, sometimes your teammates are just incompetent, but if you find yourself dying a lot, it is not an issue with your teammates. That is an issue with you. If you just blame your teammates, it's not going to get better, because you aren't taking accountability.
Those who blame their mistakes on everything but themselves are doomed to repeat it.
Me. I am quoting myself to make me look smart. Position around your teammates to protect yourself and keep those teammates healthy. As the healthier your allies are, the harder it is to kill you. Keeping teammates alive will often keep you alive as well. Now, there will be situations where you get caught out and taken by surprise, or all nearby teammates die, but remember that you are the second fastest class in the game.
So run away.
But you know how classes like Soldier and Demo can damage themselves for extra mobility? Well, if they're shooting explosives at you, try and catch the explosives with a crouch jump and surf the damage. It can even work with bullet fire, and you can also bait pyros into air blasting you away. Ah yes, good job Pyro, you as the short range class just pushed your target away from you. Get in the habit of crouch jumping when trying to get away, as surfing damage will save your life many times against people trying to kill you. Yes, I see. You have other items you can attack enemies with. Yeah, okay, let's talk about that. The syringe gun. You can use it to attack and even kill enemies, but notice how I didn't mention it at all when talking about self-preservation?
It's because it's not very good at it.
And that's its best use case as well. Not only is it not very strong, hell, the projectiles you see don't even match what the server sees, but it's best used in a situation you want to be avoiding in the first place. Half the time, it won't even save you, especially against good players. And no, I'm not going to talk about Battle Medic because that is a meme strat. All this applies to the unlockable syringe guns as well, but then we have it.
We're talking about the Crusader's crossbow, baby. If you want to be as effective as you possibly can on Medic, just use this as your primary. The choice really is that easy. It will always be the best option. Syringe guns are a band-aid solution for self-defense that doesn't work against better players and can usually be made up for with improved positioning. On the other hand, the crossbow gives you extra utility, allowing you to accomplish things that you actually want to be doing while playing Medic. The weapon fires a single bolt that deals damage to enemies or heals allies on hit. Unlike other weapons in TF2, Crusaders has inverse fall off, meaning the damage and healing actually increase the further you are from your target. It also reloads when you stow it, letting you cycle between your Medi-gun and firing off bolts without any downtime whatsoever. Crusaders does a lot for Medic's kit, but the big two are ranged and burst healing. The only way Medic can heal a teammate outside of their usual Medi-gun range is by hitting one of these bolts. That alone can let you position more safely and stay alive longer while still doing your job of keeping teammates alive. And that burst healing allows you to clutch out fights that would be otherwise unwinnable. Even the minimum 75 health that a shot into a teammate provides will more than double your total healing output compared to just leaving your Medi-gun attached, provided you actually hit the shot. There are situations where your frontlining Demo or Heavy must be arrow tank to survive. Beam just won't cut it, and them surviving can often mean a one push or even a captured objective. Turns out you don't need to defend yourself as often if you could just keep your teammates alive instead. And of course, the feeling of hitting those crazy bolts to save a teammate from certain death is just irreplaceable. Crusaders is simply too good and too fun not to use.
Well, actually, there was this one time when there were 3 low-health spies that tried to kill me, and I was able to defeat them all with the sustained damage of the...
Like, sure, use the syringe guns if you feel like it, or you haven't got the crossbow yet. Just don't gaslight yourself into thinking it's actually good. And then there's the Medic's melee, the Bone Saw, which deals 65 damage with an 0.8 second attack interval just like other stock melees. There's not much special to say about it. It's not terrible, but there are 4 unlockable melees, and I promise there won't be as big of a power gap as the crossbow. The Amputator allows you to heal multiple people at once, but doing so sticks you in this taunt animation which a certain class can completely skill you over with. A fun gimmick, but a skilled medic will almost always be able to heal a group faster without it. The Vitasaur is the only medic melee that's actually bad. You get organs when hitting enemies with it, which lets you retain 15% Uber on death, up to a max of 60% at 4 organs. However, that involves you having to hit the enemy 4 times without dying, then die while being at or above 60% Uber. If you die with less Uber, those organs are wasted, and if you never die at all, then what's the point? And that downside of minus 10 max health just makes you die more often. So unfortunately, it's really not worth it. On the opposite end of the spectrum, we have the Ubersaur. While with the Vitasaur, getting 4 hits allows you to keep 60% Uber if you die, and if you had that much Uber when you died, getting 4 hits with the Ubersaur just gives you full Uber right there and then. Yeah, pretty simply, getting a hit with this thing instantly gives you 25% Uber, all for a 20% slower firing speed. An instant boost to your Uber can be super strong because Uber is super strong. However, it is a bit of a beginner trap. Sure, 25% Uber is 25% Uber, and it can be really strong if you play your cards right, but play your cards wrong or don't get that random crit, and you've just dropped an Uber. Simply having it equipped tempts you into attacking people, which in a lot of situations will get you killed unless you really think it through. Everyone likes to use the Uber Saw because it's hype and undeniably strong. But now I'm going to say something that may be a big shock to some of you. The Solemn Vow is just as good as the Uber Saw. The Solemn Vow gives you the ability to see enemy health and Uber percentage by aiming at them, an ability normally exclusive to Spy, and for half the downside of the Uber Saw. Not to mention the effect is passive, so you don't even need to pull it out to take advantage of its upside. Seeing enemy health and Uber may not seem too strong on paper, but it helps a ton with risk management, something you want as medic. You know when enemies are hurt and might back off. You know when the enemy medic is about to pop instead of having to guess. Hell, just to make the crossbow even stronger, you can even know for absolute certain if hitting an enemy with the crossbow will kill them. It helps you defend yourself by giving you the information to help you stay alive, and even knowing when to go for cheeky kills that you otherwise may not have been so sure about. The Solemn Vow is strong, and better for new players than the Uber Saw. Its downside only matters if you even pull it out, but you don't need to pull it out to take advantage of the upside. And then we have the big boys, the 4 Medi-guns. The most notable difference between all of them is that their Ubercharges all function completely differently, which massively affects the strategy of using them. The crit streak builds Uber 25% faster, and instead of granting invulnerability, makes your patient deal guaranteed critical hits. This can be incredibly destructive, but note that it doesn't protect you whatsoever. Sure, you can kill lots of enemies really fast with a crit Uber, but if threats aren't dealt with quickly, you can very much die mid-Uber. Other than its increased build rate and Uber effect, it's identical to stock, is good for offensive pushes but won't protect you. The quick fix heals 40% faster and builds Uber 10% faster, but can only overheal half as much. But wait! Because it can't overheal as much, it never reaches the threshold that slows down Uber build, so it typically builds even faster. It also has the bonus effect of mirroring the blast jumps and shield charges of your patient. This can be fun to mess around with, but be careful of players that might not have noticed you're running quick fix. Anyway, its Uber turns the quick fix into the quicker fix, tripling the healing rate, providing complete immunity to all forms of knockback, and applying the same effects to you. However, it only heals fast. It doesn't reduce incoming damage, so high amounts of burst damage is still lethal. Then you have the Vaccinator. You press reload to cycle between bullet, explosive, and fire resistance. While healing, you and your target will take 10% less damage from the current type. It builds Uber faster and can hold up to 4 of them, but it overheals slower and builds Uber slower on overhealed targets. When an Uber is used, it creates a bubble shield around the medic and their patient correlating to the currently selected damage type, granting a 75% resistance and complete critical hit immunity against that damage type. Basically, to use the Vaccinator, you need to use a lot of brainpower and foresee different types of attacks coming. The bubble you popped can be rendered useless if you activate the wrong damage type. Not to mention, there is no protection whatsoever against melee attacks. It can be strong, but the bubbles lack the sheer power of a proper Uber. But none of these Uber types are as universally powerful as the good old stock Uber. Sure, crits can kill enemies fast, quick fix can heal super fast, and Vax can protect you against specific damage types, but stock Uber is so strong because it removes death as a possibility. As long as you're careful to not get knocked into a death pit, which many maps don't even have, you literally cannot be killed during a stock Uber, which makes it so versatile because you can do so many things with that. You can use it offensively, defensively, to save teammates or kill enemies. The other Medi-guns spec into specific niches, which when used right can be strong, but stock does it all. This does make the other Ubers more straightforward in how you should use them, as stock is the hardest Uber to think about. But it's also harder for it to go wrong. Now I'm going to be talking only in the context of the stock Ubercharge here, since it is just so strong and versatile. If you want breakdowns of the other Medi-guns or just more detailed breakdowns on medic stuff in general, go check out TheoryWise channel. He's the guy from earlier who talked about the crossbow and helped brainstorm this video. Super underrated if you want to get better at medic. Anyway, Uber makes you pull for 8 seconds, however switching targets will cut half a second from the remaining duration. The effect will linger for an extra second once the beam is broken or the Uber runs out, which can allow you to quickly flash multiple teammates to briefly make them all invulnerable at once, at the cost of duration. This can be especially useful to push your team through a tight door, though most of the time, you will generally pick one person to use the entire Uber on. It should also be noted that Ubercharge does not prevent knockback. This means you still need to watch out for certain attacks, like explosives, sentry guns, and especially pyros. Pyro's air blast is not affected by the stock Uber. and sending you into a death pit is one of the few ways you can kill an Ubered medic. Be very careful of nearby death pits and pyros when going in for an Uber. Even if there is no death pit, an air blast happy pyro can still completely stuff an Uber, either by not letting you push as far forward as you wanted to, trapping you in a corner, or even separating you from the patient so the beam detaches. The biggest counter to pyro is to be aware of your surroundings and not let them get close. Should they manage to, try your best to not get trapped and at the very least make it out alive. Speaking of staying alive, if you have full Uber, you don't have anyone to use it on, and you think you're about to die, pop it. Don't drop it. Seriously, it is always better to pop an Uber on yourself to save your life than die with it. Even if you don't find a teammate to use it on, you will most likely survive the encounter and can get back to building another Uber faster. Remember, you still take knockback while Ubered, so try and surf it to get away. In fact, while Uber does make you invulnerable, towards the end of it you should be looking for a way to get yourself out of danger. Use that last second or two to get back to safety, unless your Uber did a really good job of clearing an area, in which case it may be better to continue pushing forward to carry that momentum. Also, another beginner mistake I see is holding on to an Uber for too long. Don't overthink it and wait for some perfect, magical, foolproof opportunity, because it won't happen. The longer you hold on to an Uber, the more you risk dying before using it, and it just delays the amount of time until your next Uber. You should start thinking about who you're going to Uber before you even hit 100%, which can result in you popping it right away. Just remember to check the ammo of your target. Nothing is more awkward than popping on someone only for them to go, "Oh wait, hold up, I just have to reload my gun first, hold on." Try and Uber whoever you think will do the most with it. You can wait a little bit, but in most cases that isn't going to be any longer than 15 or so seconds. The classes you typically Uber are Scout, Soldier, Pyro, Demo, and Heavy. With Scout, they are really fast and can do lots of damage when they get close, but their main weakness is their low health. Running straight at an enemy will often get them killed. But when you use stock Uber on them, suddenly their low health is irrelevant.
Ubered Scout has no weaknesses
Except aim and crowd control. The Scout can now run in a straight line at enemies, which with him being the fastest class in the game makes him hard to get away from. If they know what they're doing and have good aim, a Scout Uber can decimate. Just watch out for potent sources of knockback. Their lack of crowd control doesn't make them the best for pushes, but can still be effective in a pinch. With Soldier, note that they can't exactly rocket jump during an Uber as that would likely break the beam, but they make up for it in crowd control. With a fully loaded rocket launcher, they can unload a lot of damage, especially in a small space. They're also better at dealing with sentry nests than the likes of Scout. With Pyro, you see this guy? He's the most innocent pyro in the world, out here to protect his teammates from spies and projectiles. Give them an Uber and they will instantly switch to kill mode. Even the freshest of installs will know exactly what to do when Ubered is a pyro. Pyros are especially scary in tight spaces where people don't have the room to move, but are very ineffective over long distances for somewhat obvious reasons. The other big use of a pyro Uber is to deny enemy Ubers. Normally, when two teams Uber at once, you get what's known as the Uber handshake, the awkward standoff where neither of you can really do much until someone's Uber fades. But this is not the case if one of them is a pyro, as the air blast can completely disrupt them as mentioned earlier, but with the added benefit of the pyro not being able to be killed. The main thing to watch out for during a pyro Uber is the immense knockback of a sentry gun. If the pyro starts getting shot by the gun before getting close enough to attack it, it can completely stuff your Uber. This goes for the other classes as well, but especially Pyro and Scout. You can sometimes counter this by running in before your patient to draw the fire of potential sentry guns, allowing the actual source of damage to close the distance. Just be careful that you don't get knocked back so far that the beam disconnects. Then we have Demo Man, who is very good at destroying sentries, and dealing lots of damage in general. They can carpet an area in sticky bombs and decimate entire groups at once. A good Demo Man can make for the most destructive Ubers in the game. Granted, they have the stock sticky bomb launcher equipped. They are often the best class to Uber for pushes. And then we have Heavy. Look, I know you want to recreate Meet the Medic because it really did look cool in that video, but most players actually know what an Uber is and don't run straight into the Heavy they know is invulnerable. The biggest problem with Heavy Ubers is that the Heavy is really slow. A lot of the time you go in with an Ubered Heavy and the enemy just runs away. They're gone. Heavy Ubers tend to work better defensively to hold ground and prevent a push, not to initiate a push. Offensive Heavy Ubers only work when the enemy can't run away easily, such as when you cut off their escape or attack at an unexpected angle. But at the end of the day, any class can make for an effective Uber in the right scenario, but only if you are smart and adaptive about it. This is especially important if your intended target dies right before a pop, as you'll want to quickly switch to a new target on the fly. An Uber also does not necessarily need to get kills to be effective. Since stock Uber is so versatile, there are many different ways it can be used. First up is the classic Uber push. This is probably the first thing that comes to mind when talking about an Ubercharge. You use it to push into the enemy lines and deal as much damage as possible to create an opening for your team. Use these types of Ubers on players you are confident will do the most damage with them. You don't really have to think too hard about these. Check that they're loaded up and pop as soon as they jump into the action. The sheer power of Uber will compel them to abandon all fear and cause as much chaos as possible. Next is the Space Maker. This is used to create or hold space when you aren't confident the Uber is going to do much damage by itself. Even if the player you Ubered isn't that great, if they're playing a class like Soldier, Pyro, and especially Demo, the enemy will still likely piss themselves and back off. They don't care that your patient may not be that good at the game, because they don't want to find out the hard way that they are. The Space Maker can prevent your team from trickling in and dying over and over, giving them the courage to make more aggressive plays and start pushing up. Sometimes you will win a fight after the Uber because you split up the enemy team or yours took the opportunity to group up. This is a good example of why an Uber doesn't need to get kills to be effective. You could get absolutely no kills during the Uber, but the sheer terror inflicted by it displaces the enemy in such a way that yours now has the positional advantage. Next up is the Tempo Pop. This is when your team has gained momentum over the enemy team, and you're using the Uber to maintain that momentum so they can't regroup. This isn't the type of Uber you use to get an advantage, this is the type of Uber you use to keep an advantage going that you already have. You're essentially trying to stall and disrupt as much as possible. Use it on whoever is furthest into the fight, and try to get off as many Ubers as possible. This is also a good time to talk about game sense and spotting advantages. Knowing how to recognize when the enemy team is at a disadvantage, most notably when a lot of them are dead, can tell you how aggressively to use an Uber. This is why tempo pops can be effective to, say, prevent engineers from setting a nest up in time to stop your push. If there is a medic on the enemy team, it's also good to keep a mental note of how much Uber they probably have. For most, assume it'll take around 40 to 60 seconds for them to get an Uber, and if they die or just use an Uber, you can know they're at 0% and that you're currently at an Uber advantage. Popping Ubers before the enemy and potentially killing their medic to reset it is a massive boon to the momentum of your team. This also leads into the pick Uber. As opposed to a classic push where you try to cause as much chaos as possible, instead you're trying to kill specific players on the enemy team, which is often their medic. This can also apply to any class though, such as a troublesome sniper, an annoying engineer with a tightly guarded nest, or just some guy on the enemy team that's really good. Of course, this works better if you're coordinating with your patient, either they're your friend or you're using the in-game voice chat. Like, okay, see that guy? See that guy over there? I want you to kill that guy right now, okay? You get him, you kill that guy right now. Next up are Uber exchanges. This is using an Uber to counteract another Uber. This is used when playing defensively, especially when trying to hold your final point. You are Ubering not to win the fight, but to prevent them from winning it. This can be one of the few cases where holding on to an Uber for a while is smart, as you don't want to get caught out by their Uber. Pop after they do to hopefully have their Uber in first. And because this is a defensive Uber, try and flash whoever the enemy is trying to attack to prevent as much damage as possible. They will likely try to ignore whoever is Ubered, so start switching targets. Just be careful to not flash so much that your Uber runs out first. It's also worth noting that if you're using stock Uber and the enemy is using anything else, you automatically have a massive advantage, because they literally cannot kill you. Stock Uber counters every other type of Uber. Next are Band-Aid Ubers. This is the opposite of the tempo pop, where you are on the receiving end of a steamroll. This is to stall or even outright halt the enemy team's momentum, giving yours time to regroup. Use these on defensive classes as they're the best for holding ground, but be aware that you should only Band-Aid Uber if you think your team will not be able to recover without it, as you're potentially missing out on an offensive Uber. Then finally are the Panic Pops. We've already gone over this, but to reiterate, it's always better to use an Uber that doesn't get used on anyone but lets you survive, than it is to die with a full charge. If you're about to die, pop it, don't drop it. As a medic, you are the most important member of your team. Value your life above all else, but keep a balance of getting as much healing done as possible while not getting killed. Manage healing priority, crit heals, know when to commit, and when to get out. Stay alive long enough to build your Uber. Are you sure this will work? Ha! You have no idea.
And then I had the last two.